Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fiction genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Once Upon a Time. A fantastic series finale, a great way to end off the series. And obviously, a lot of stuff went down this episode. We got to break down bit by bit. I did like a lot of the twists and turns they did, like the whole like Rumple's ultimate plan being to basically put everyone, not just our heroes, but basically every hero from every realm into their own book, kind of basically, keeping them isolated, because what made all these characters stronger are their bonds and their ties to each other, always being together. And it's like you rip them apart, that basically just leave them in this, like, because he basically built these individual prisons for everyone, which is kind of interesting considering the fact is the Dark One has always been in prison. Many different ways you can interpret that. Obviously, like him physically being in prison, but also like, well, in the sense of it's also kind of like, obviously this is a different Rumple, but this, like, I mean, the same thing could have applied to our Rumple, where it's like, oh, like the Dark One had to be in prison inside of him, where he had that little glimmer of light in him that kind of always shined through, that the Dark One inside of him would probably want to snuff out anyway. It's just kind of interesting when you think about it like that. I'm sure it's probably not that deep, but it just kind of, that's what it makes me think of. Plus the fact is he was locked up in one wish realm, Rumple was, so. And basically he was feeding off of Henry's, I guess also because Henry is the biggest believer, and so I guess even in this wish realm, that still kind of apply. So when he kind of wanted it so much, he dragged different people, like he could activate that. Like it was based off his raw emotions, his anger, that kind of fueled all of this. So I guess like, whereas like Henry's belief fueled a lot of things, in this, his anger, need for revenge. Because even Regina's like, I'm not going to hurt you. And it's like, yeah, I mean, once again, it's like Regina's reason for killing his grandparents is like, well, the fact of the matter is, she like I say, she didn't think much of it. It's like, this is a wish realm. She's like, oh, none of this mattered. And it's like, at the end of the day, it did matter. But for her, it's like, even then, even the Regina she was then is still kind of different from this Regina too. Like that was kind of Regina on her path as well. And it was a mistake she made, because she, like I say, she didn't think it would matter as much. And also it's like, she would never do anything to hurt Henry, no matter which Henry it is. You might not be my son, but another time you were, in another reality, you are my son. And like, no matter what it is, I will always want the best for you. But for him, he's like so driven by hate and revenge, which is so interesting, because like obviously this whole series teach you like revenge doesn't get you anything, because that's what he was hoping for. He was hoping that by killing Regina, he could get his happily ever after. It's like, no, you're happy. Revenge doesn't do that. It won't fill that hole in his heart that he thought it would. And when it came down to it, Regina actually was able to convince him, because it's like, she came there, like, didn't actually fight him, because it's like, I want you to know that you aren't alone. So if I have to die for you to like kind of get away from all of this, and she's like, fine, then I'll make that sacrifice if it needs be, because it's like, no matter what world it is, no matter what Henry it is, she'll always be very protective of him and do whatever it takes to make sure that he's okay, so I love, and it's so, like I said, it's so interesting because it's Regina. Like, I mean, you look at how much she's grown over the course of this series. You never thought she'd be like the great mother that she is. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it. I've even made a video where I did kind of a heroes or villains about Regina in particular. And I think this episode kind of encompassed all of that too. Just that progression too of her not being the villain she was. I even love that little sweet moment she had with Robin. Him basically, she's talking about, yeah, like, because even he judged her the first time they met. It's like, oh, like all he saw was a villain, but he's like really quickly like, no, that ultimately like she is good. And I don't know, it was just kind of this sweet moment, just kind of like, oh. It's also that sad thing too. I mean, to be fair, you don't know she does it, but it also makes you go, well, because she never thought she'd find love again after Daniel, but she did with Robin, then she lost Robin. So it does beg the question, make you wonder, like, I'd like to think later on down the road she found someone else. Like I said, I was kind of wondering if that was going to be Facilier, but it turned out not to be the case. I mean, ultimately, given the chance, given the time, if the series built out more, maybe that could have been the case. I mean, plenty of people turned around. Hook is a great example of that. So it's Rumple, which obviously I'm going to get to a lot in this as well. But I also appreciated it starting off with Robin and Alice in Storybrooke, and like no one believing them, like run into like the dwarves and Granny and immediately getting attacked because it's like, oh, we know all about curses. It's like, oh, of course they're going to believe you. And then he attacked you because it's like, they just thought you, I guess you were just crazy people or someone causing problems. It's like, it's kind of interesting to think the storybook is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, to be fair, strangers that pop up in town, strangers in town usually going to lead to some problems later on. So I guess that kind of makes sense why you would kind of be hesitant about any stranger. But I love it that Robin had to convince her mom. I was like, I love it because it was Zelina of that time, not her own Zelina, because Zelina was off elsewhere. So it would have been interesting to see her kind of convincing everyone, but I mean, it's just, she just took convincing Zelina, so that was kind of a nice touch. I did love that the fact is like how they ended up getting out of the snow globe, like Ella, Lucy, Henry, Hook, and Rumple was Maui's Hook, which is so interesting. Like I said, it's one of those other things where I feel like they could have easily, they were probably planning on building that out too, but I just love that that popped up in it. I just thought that was kind of a neat thing. Because that's initially what he was going to use to free Alice from the tower. Because I was like, I was trying to remember, what was the context for that coming up in the story? It's like, that's what it was for. And it's like, oh yeah, only Alice could have sent him that. So I also love like Robin being like, so like, I want to ask your permission to marry your daughter. It's like, he's like, I'd love to have you as like, it's like the family connections run even deeper. And it's like, it's just so cute that she's like, yeah, this is probably like the worst time. He's like, I'm probably going to die. So this is probably like your only opportunity. He's like, of course you can. It's just like, yeah. And then she's like, don't think you're not going. Like, we didn't get to see it, but I'm sure he had his badass moment of like he drew his sword to kind of take on all those knights, kind of acting as a distraction. So I thought that was kind of pretty neat. Also, the fact is that we had Snow White and Prince Charming show. Like, I knew they were going to show up, but it still was so nice to see. It was like, having their grandsons back. And then it's like, they're sitting at the table. It's like, we talked about it in this war room before. And it's like, but around this table with different people under different circumstances. I mean, it's like, look, some enemies have become friends. They've gotten some new people added to the family. And even a friend pointing to Hook, who's new yet familiar. I was like, that's so good. And it's kind of a situation of that, you know, in their family, they always find each other. So show that no matter what happens, even when things seem bad, even when people are separated, that they will always find their way to each other. They have to hope and they have to believe. And it's just like, yes. To me, one of my moments that's kind of breaking my heart, it's like when Alice is about to be flown off and Hook grabs her and she's like, let go because it's killing his heart. And he's like, never. And I'm like, and then, also Rumple himself, I thought that was so beautiful. Because for Rumple, he's like, I don't think I'll ever be with Belle again. But for the first, and like him confronting his darker side, I thought was kind of a nice touch of being like, he's like, I'm going to end this. Because the fact of the matter is, he's like, you think you're going to be the only Rumple left. And he's like, I'm not going to let the only Rumple be known to all the worlds to be the coward. Because it's like, you are a reminder of who I was, the me that didn't have Belle, the reason why I became the Dark One in the first place was because I was a coward. And he's like, I won't let everyone know that to be the only Rumple. Because for him, it's like, he's grown stronger because he's like, I'm the strongest version of us because of all the people that he has and that he cares about. Initially, he was going to rip out the other Rumple's heart, but this time, instead of doing that, he took out his own. Because for him, it's like, it wasn't about getting to Belle anymore. He figured he'd lost his chance, but it's like, and it was that beautiful line of like, I should do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because of a reward. And that's the whole thing. Like, it's something that comes up in a lot of stories. Was it just this? I feel like there was something else that came up with this recently, too. It's like, doing the right thing because you thought you were going to get a reward out of it. So he wasn't, everything he had done, all the good he had done, it always had an asterisk next to it because like, oh, I'm doing this good thing. Not because it's necessarily 100% the good thing, but because I'm doing it because I think it will get me to Belle. So this was him. He didn't think he'd ever get to Belle. So he did a non-selfish thing. He never had selfish reason. It was just to protect the people that he cares about. And he ended up taking out his own heart and giving it to Hook. And because it's such an interesting thing, because I never thought about before, it's like him and the other Rumple are connected because of their powers and everything too. But it's like, I guess when one Dark One falls all across all realities, all the other Dark Ones kind of fall too. It's kind of interesting too, because let's not forget, wasn't it back at season 5, the whole storyline about the first half of season 5, the whole storyline about like all the other past Dark Ones and stuff like that. It's kind of just an interesting thing that it finally comes down to Rumple. He was kind of like the only Dark One left standing at that time. Well, to be fair, there was the whole, Emma becoming a Dark One at the time, but nevertheless, it's just kind of an interesting thing. he gave his heart to Hook, who out of anyone, for one, it's the fact is that I liked it too because he had that line because like he was like, yeah, he's like that endless determination of yours is kind of like it's kind of a little naive, but at the same time that's why I chose you as my partner. He's like, you had the power the entire time. Why didn't you ever kill me? Because he's like, honestly, you're the closest thing I've ever had to a friend. I'm like, wow, to think about that, mortal enemies. And it's like, oh, I mean, it's kind of like Emma and Regina. It's like Regina hated her just like she hated Snow. And it's like, look where they are now. They're family. And so he wanted to do one good thing because it's like Alice deserved happiness too. And it's like, Hook deserved to be with his daughter. It's at least one thing he can do is get rid of Wish, Rumple, and also give them their happiness by letting them finally be together and sacrifice himself. And then you have Regina coming to him like, thank you for teaching me one final lesson that even amongst the darkness, there is always light. And he was a proof of that, And the fact of the matter is he sacrificed himself for all of them. And she's like, I miss you, but the fact of the matter is you deserve your happiness, so go and find it. And we do see him reunited with Belle at the end, and I was like, I'm so freaking happy. And like I said, I just love how that all came to a conclusion, but not even just that. It's like Regina's like, I have one more thing, one more curse, and even older Henry's like, wait, what? I even love that he's kind of side by side with young Henry, which is kind of interesting. It's like, okay, so how is this all going to play? It's like, well, it's going to play out by me casting one more curse, but this curse is going to be different. The curses before were like taking the heart of the person that you care about most and using it as ingredient. What if this time I use the heart of everyone that's close to me and important to me, and we put all those, everyone gives a little piece of their heart, and basically we take everything to Storybrooke. Basically every realm that we've kind of been introduced to over the series, Oz, the Enchanted Forest, I would assume Arendelle, Frozen, like all that's kind of lumped together, but like probably every world that you've come to know about in Once Upon a Time is basically in Storybrooke. It's all in, like it'll be that one corner of their world where everyone, everyone can be together. No more separations. All the stories all together in one realm. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to bring it all together. Like, 'cause I was wondering how they were going to conclude it. And I think that is legitimately the best way. And not only did it not stop there, we skip forward a little bit. It's like they've been living like this for a while. And you have Regina being crowned queen of this new land, the good queen. And it's just kind of like, she deserves it after everything that she's done. She's the one that brought this all together. You had everybody showing up. And then like Emma coming in at the last minute. And it's just kind of like, it's definitely going to be interesting going forward with the two different Henrys. I mean, he's kind of got his family back because he's got his grandma and grandpa, and there's the other Emma. I mean, there's Emma, but his other grandma and grandpa, plus this other just huge family all on its own. And then you have Regina kind of being a mom. So it's kind of interesting because she's got like older Henry, she's got teenage Henry, which I'm sure there's be a part of her that's happy about it. Let's not forget, she wasn't able to be around a lot of time when Henry was young. So, I mean, because that's so interesting, because can we actually think about, because let's not forget about the whole situation of like where the curse took place. So most likely what happened with, I mean, we never got to see it with at the end, but I can only assume maybe he was there, but Zelina's bow, I guess he potentially found out the truth after all. Potentially, I think the truth had to have come out, especially with everyone remembering. Not unless that's going to be like her little kept secret. I mean, it's her family. I doubt she's going to like let everything kind of like be kept a secret. So everyone's together, and it's just like the little big happy family moment. And it's sorry because I lost my train of thought. What I was saying is, I guess like when she created this new curse, it undid the previous curse that Gothel / Anastasia, not Anastasia, Drizella had cast. So I guess that kind of undid that, and they were all kind of brought to Storybrooke where everything kind of, I was kind of hoping that at the very end they would kind of sneak one thing in of like, because it is something Regina touches on. The fact of the matter is, this isn't the end. This isn't like, Regina's happily ever after her happy ending. It's like, no, like the fact of the matter is everyone's stories here are far from over. So like, it's that thing of just kind of like, even though we won't get to see it, that there's way more adventures out there. I'm so curious to see what happened to two Henrys. It's got to be a little awkward because it's like, Lucy seeing her dad, like potentially Lucy is growing up with a different version of her dad, which is something just crazy to think about. But it's like, hey, timelines and different realities all coming together. And like I said, storybook being this little corner where magic kind of reigns free, where all the stories come together. And I just thought that was kind of such a beautiful way to end it all. And it's like, yeah, you know, and it's so befitting. I love the little like editing at the end where it's like we see all these spots in Storybrooke, and then the final sign is literally the title of the episode, Leaving Storybrooke, which is actually popped up in the intro title card. So I thought that's kind of neat. But it's kind of what Regina said, that the fact of the matter is there's going to be so many more adventures. They've gained so much over like all these stories, and they've lost so many. But the fact of the matter is there will be loss in the future too, because it's just that's how things are. But the fact of the matter is we are strong enough to like move past that, you know, that loss. And just flashes of the entire series, just all these different things, and it's just we got us to where we are right now. And I think that was kind of just the most beautiful and best way to end off this series. So like I said, I've talked about it recently. The fact of the matter is I am sad that the show has come to an end, because I know you could tell they were optimistic and hoping for more, and I would have loved to see what they would have done building out this new continuity they were creating on top of the original continuity. But I think it was a great job they did kind of closing all the chapters out, closing out the story, and giving this story a proper, amazing close like this. And kind of like legitimately, like I said, I'm very happy to see it end, at the same time being super sad. But like I try to do this say this all the time, but I don't always do it, I feel like. But it's like I wish everyone that's associated with this show the best of luck in their future endeavors and everything that they do, from the cast and crew to the creators, the writers, whatever the case may be, everyone connected to the show, because this show has been fantastic. Like, and I've even talked about it recently. I kind of want to go back and rewatch a lot of it, because this show, it's so good. And like so many laughs, so many twists and turns, so many gasping moments, so many tears shed. And I'm sad to see it go, but it's such a beautiful ending. And so there's enough about me rambling and gushing all over how great the show is, because obviously if you're listening to this potentially, I'd assume that you're a fan of the show and you would agree too. So just kind of wanted to kind of say all that as I was kind of closing this out. So, but really that's all I wanted to say. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good